Thank you so much, Mark. It's a delight to be here. And honestly, the way you kind of brought us in, I felt like I was just ready to sink into a very deep meditation. So I'll just try to like build on what you have already invited. And I love the invitation to just think about this space as a way to arrive and to heighten or open or expand our awareness. And that really speaks to the Torah portion this week's Parsha as well. So Mark already led us through kind of closing things down and slowing down. I just want to invite you further. Sometimes if you ever see like a boat slow down, it just takes a while. It doesn't really stop on a dive. It just kind of slows. And even sometimes it has to like throw it into reverse, which creates a little bit more of a rumble. And then finally, it just moves into stillness. So the invitation for today is to do what most serves you. If it's helpful to receive this teaching as a guided meditation, then invite you just to close your eyes if you want, or you can kind of settle your gaze and just really sink and settle into this space. And maybe like a boat slowing down in the water, you can just feel the kind of ripples flattening out and just kind of a smoothness of the water around you as you slow down and you settle and you come to a place of ease. And maybe there's some things that are causing or creating kind of obstacles for that. Something you're thinking about, maybe it's like a work project or friends coming over later or a meal you have to get together. And maybe you can just in your mind's eye hold that thing in front of you in your hand and you can kind of just like place it to the side. Maybe there's like a beloved ancestor that can just like hold it for you, just to invite as much awareness into the space. And this is just the gift that you are giving yourself. We know that the world is continuing, even as we are slowing down, the things that need to get done will still need to get done. They will be there. They will be available for you to pick up that worry or that concern or that regret. But in this space, you're invited just to, as you're comfortable, notice being present in this space. What is arising in the body, sensations in your body. You might want to do a little scan of your body, starting with your feet and kind of working your way up through your calves and your knees and your legs, and just noticing if there's any points of tension that you just want to whisper the invitation to release and relax and soften. Just continue up through your waist and your midsection and your chest and your back to your shoulders. You might even want to roll your shoulders back, let them drop, and see if you can feel your whole body just sink and settle, even if it's just a millimeter. Bringing awareness to the body if there's any pain or discomfort, maybe just meeting it with a little sweetness, a little kindness, a little chesed, a little compassion. Working our way up through our shoulders, the back of the head, around to our skull and forehead, our eye sockets, letting our eyes come to a place of ease, just relaxing in that warm bath, down through our nose and our mouth, to our teeth and our gums and our tongue, and even the roof of the mouth. That's a place where I happen to hold a lot of tension. And we can, in this moment of stillness, bring awareness to different parts of our body. You can see if you can notice the muscle in the roof of your mouth and just invite it to relax a little and release. Nothing that needs to be done right now in this time. Just receiving this gift to yourself of being in this community, receiving this gift from IJS, the gift of being present with your wholeness, with the fullness of who you are, and just lovingly accepting it. And finally, we'll just work our way out through the shoulders, our biceps and triceps to our elbows, and our forearms to our wrists, back of our hands and our palms, and then just one finger at a time till we work our way out to the fingertips. And just taking a moment of appreciation for this body, even in all the ways that sometimes it fails us or it's not quite what we want it to be, but so grateful for being alive, being able to wake up today, to be in this life, in this body, in this moment, with all that is good and with all that is hard, just being with all of it, the invitation. And as your practice is just to hold something as a point of awareness, whether it's the breath rising and falling, or sound, or even the words of this teaching, whatever is of service to you. So this week we are exploring the Parsha, the weekly Torah portion of Tzav in Vayikra in Leviticus, the third book of the Torah. And it is primarily focusing on ritual sacrifices, this ancient practice that was adopted by the Israelites. And we know that the Israelites brought offerings of animals and grain or money to the Kohanim, to the priests, and the Kohanim in turn offer them as sacrifices to the divine, to God. And there's many different words for sacrifice, but one of them is the korban, which also means to draw close. And these offerings were really the primary process that we had for ancient Jews to connect with God. People provided their prized possessions, the best of what they had, as a symbol of their dedication to the divine, seeking favor in the eyes of the divine. And we know that with the destruction of the temple in the first century Common Era, we stopped this practice of making these ritual sacrifices, and instead we offer prayer. And this was a really amazing innovation and creation of the rabbis in the community that taught us that we move closer to God with our words and mouths rather than physical sacrifices. And again, it's just thinking about this intentionality of what we are offering and bringing the best of ourselves forward. And the best of us is really includes all of us. That is what we're really called to offer to the divine. So it's really still based in these practices of evening and morning and afternoon prayer services that really are similar to ancient ritual korbanot of different sacrifices that we made. And we read in this week's Torah portion that God speaks to Moses, commanding Aaron, who's the high priest, his brother, and talks to him and his sons regarding the ritual of the burnt offering and says, that is the burnt offering which burns on the altar all night until morning, and the fire of the altar shall burn with it. So we ask the question, like, why is it important that the fire burns all night until morning? We read in the Zohar, a 13th century mystical text, a comment on this verse. It says, this passage, this verse about the fire burning all night, this represents the continual conscious struggle to recognize the holy and the pure, keeping the flame of this consciousness always burning, even in the darkest moments. So here we see this idea of making a connection between the burning throughout the night to how do we bring awareness into prayer, not just in these moments of sitting or in these moments of davening, of prayer, or other ways of living out the mitzvot, the commandments, of saying blessings, but how do we hold that awareness, hold that sense of consciousness all of the time, which is not easy, which is a struggle, which is why we work on these practices. But how can we do that? And in that way, we're even bringing it into the hardest moments. And I think for many of us, this maybe feels like one of the hardest moments, in this moment where our democracy feels so threatened and there's wars happening and there is not enough sparks of hope. And so our ability to stay in the place of consciousness and awareness and in a space of offering the best of ourselves, what can we bring forth, is the invitation not just to do it in individual moments, but continuously, right? Mindfulness isn't meant to be only what happens when we're meditating, but how do we use that as a practice to bring into other parts of our life? Maybe just taking a moment to notice other parts of your life that you bring that type of mindfulness in, where maybe that resides in your body, how you bounce around the day, moments of great awareness, and maybe moments where it's a bit of a struggle, and just meeting that with kindness. The last teaching I want to bring forward is from a 15th century Spanish rabbi, Isaac ben Moses Arama, who has an additional insight into the power of prayer around this kind of ongoing offering that's burning. Rabbi says, because prayer is a service of the heart, we have connected the chapter on prayer with the chapter on Olah, the sacrifice that we're talking about that goes up in smoke, the total offering. And as this offering is one that rises up towards God in its entirety, since the whole animal is being offered on the altar, so is prayer an offering of the heart, which rises towards heaven in its entirety. When our sages describe prayer without concentrating on its meaning as being comparable to a body without a soul, they mean that the warmth of feeling generated by genuine prayer parallels the ongoing fire on the altar that burns the Olah, this beautiful offering. And each of us hopefully has had this experience of bringing our full self in prayer. And I don't mean just like if we're at synagogue or even saying Kaddish at the end of this call, but maybe bringing our full self is like that moment during a wedding day or the birth of your child or holding the hand of a beloved who is in the process of dying or even snuggling with a really dear pet. When we are singularly focused, even if it's just for a moment, and we can really feel our hearts swelling and tears maybe pour out, and we feel really awakened to the intensity of that feeling arising. And it's almost too much flowing through us. We can just feel the immense experience of being present. And as we prepare to sit, I just wanted to share, I was really reflecting on this and thinking so much about my grandma Sylvia, who, when she was dying, I remember sitting next to her on the couch and I was holding her hand and her skin was so soft. It was like almost translucent. And her, her words were, her sadness to me in that moment wasn't about dying. It was really about not being part of my future life, about if I met a beloved, if I got married, if I had kids, that she wouldn't know them. And that idea of the absence of her presence, it just like plowed through me like a subway car, you know? And I remember just weeping, but feeling so deeply connected to her soul, to that sense of loss of that connection. And even though it was so sad, it also felt like, wow, what a gift, because I returned to that moment of deep connection. And so when we sit today, I just want to invite you to notice in your body, notice in your awareness what is arising, and just see as you are able to hold your awareness in that space, not just on the singular act, not just on the breath, but actually how you are being breathed, how the breath is flowing through you, and see how it enters into the fullness of your body. So if you haven't already, this is a great time to just close your eyes or rest your gaze. And we're going to sit for about 8 minutes or so right now. And we will sit for about 7 or 8 minutes and we'll begin now. And then we'll let you know when we come out of this. read Eish Tamid Tukad Al Hamizbeach Lo Tichbe. A perpetual fire shall be kept burning on the altar, not to go out. May it be that our prayers of the heart and our time, our practice of awareness on our own and in this community continues to be a light in our souls and a light in the world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Benjamin. Really beautiful practice. And let's seal that practice as we do each day. Encouraging everyone to stay present, please, for a moment to support those of us who are in mourning or observing a yard site. Who are invited to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring or remembering in the chat now or after we recite Kaddish. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, you play a key role in supporting those who are. So please stay present. Thanks to Harry for sharing the words of the Kaddish on the screen. And if you're reciting it, please join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba, Yama, Yama, Shirutei, V'Yamlich, Malchutei,
Behau, Yukon,
B'Yisrael, Agalat, Bisman, Karit,
Israel,
V'Yimru,
Amen. Usman Kamivu,
Shemei Rabba, Mevarach, Bam, Ulamei, Amaya,
Amay, Amaya, Amaya,
Barach, V'Yishtabach,
Dash,
Ba'ar, V'Yitam,
Ma,
V'Yitameh,
Nasa,
Adar,
Yada,
V'Yitaleh,
Tara,
V'Yitzchak,
Halal,
B'Rich,
Sam,
Ela min kol
Mama,
birchata
Mama, Tara,
v'shirata,
Kuta,
ukata v'nechamata, ba'amiran ba'alma,
Mama,
Ru,
Allahu, Amen.
yehesh
Abraham,
lama raba min
Rabbanim,
shemaya
Shemaya, Aninu, Balkal, Yisrael, Amen. Say Shalom,
Shalom
Ya Asay
b'nama,
Shalom, Aninu, Balkal, Yisrael, Balkal,
inu
Shnei Tavo,
v'yatevel,
Amen.
tetevel, shemiru,
Shalom Aleinu,
amen.
V'yakol Yisrael V'yakol Yoshvei Tavel B'Imnu, Amen.
Amen. Friends, thanks for joining us. And if you are leaving us now, we hope you'll join us tomorrow. I'll be leading our sit Friday, which we like to think about as an opportunity to sit together into Shabbat. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow at our usual time. Just a program note, next week, of course, because of Passover, we will be meeting on Monday and Tuesday. We will not be meeting on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Wednesday is Erev Pesach. And IGS will be shutting down and will be, of course, closed for the holiday. So we're meeting only 2 days live next week on Monday and Tuesday, just to make sure you know that. Of course, all our sessions are recorded, they're live streamed on YouTube, and the recordings are posted there. So always feel free to avail yourself of that. And also our podcast, Jewish Meditation for Everyone, produced by our own Harry Goboa. Get wherever you get your podcasts, also an opportunity to support you in your practice. And we want to thank Harry, as well as we want to thank Stuart Sigmund for sponsoring today's practice in loving memory of his brother, Robert Jeffrey Sigmund, Raphael Yaakov Ben Chaim Moshe Polisa, on the occasion of his 25th yard site. May his memory always be a blessing for you, Stuart, and thank you so much for supporting all of our practice today in this beautiful way and with this beautiful dedication. Everyone's invited, of course. Stay on and join us for conversation. Continue to sit with the beautiful guidance that Benjamin offered. The following week, we'll have daily sits. Yeah, see Sarah's question, except for the 7th and 8th day of Passover. And let's see, I'll take a quick look because everyone should know this. So the 7th day is Wednesday the 8th, and the 8th day is Thursday the 9th. So we will not be meeting on the 8th or the 9th, but we will be meeting on Monday the 6th, Tuesday the 7th, and Friday the 10th. That's our schedule coming up for the holiday, and then we're in business Monday through Fridays thereafter for a good stretch of time. Benjamin, that was really just beautiful. Thank you so much. I guess I'd like to go back over. You really, I mean, it was a beautiful settling in at the beginning, and then guiding us through the evolution from the sacrifices that are described. This is one of the more challenging Torah portions. Like, kids are not usually very thrilled to get this as their B mitzvah Torah portion. But and yet, number one, it still has a number of gems in it, like the one that you brought and cited at the end about keeping the fire burning on the altar constantly. That's Dayenu. That's good enough right there, right? Um, but I really, since you settled us in the sequence of, okay, so these are sacrifices that are meant to remind us to bring that they were in ancient times the way that our ancestors brought their best to God, right? So that's the essence of that ritual, right? All right, we think like, oh, we don't do that anymore, Yes, we don't do the sacrifices anymore, but do we also still bring our best to God? That's a good question. So that raised that question for me. Think about, oh, the whole purpose of spiritual practice is to bring our best to God, and how we do that, and what does that mean? And then even the phrase that this avodah, the Hebrew, for the sacrificial service, avodah, which literally means labor or work or service, it's not usually translated as service. It's usually avodah is work, in which you think of as a burden, but service is a different matter. And it's a reminder that why are we here on this planet? We're here in service. That's our only purpose here, which is so countercultural. Maybe it's never been more countercultural. So I just was sitting there thinking, oh yes, right. Thanks for reminding me, Rabbi Benjamin Ross. Bring your best. Do your best. Bring the best of you, and all of it is in service to something beyond ourselves. That's life altering. So, not sure there's a question there.
Yeah. Well,
That's an
it's funny.
appreciation.
Yeah, I really appreciate the reflection. And I guess the one piece I want to pull out of it, well, there's two pieces, but I'll probably forget the second one. So the one that I'm remembering is around, like, this was a very pivotal moment in my own spiritual formation when I was studying Torah and they were talking about offerings and you had to make a zachar tamim. And the zachar is like the animal that you're bringing forward, and tamim often is translated as like blemish free. Which is funny. I was like, oh, it's like an animal without acne, or an animal like without a wound, and I think the idea in the time was like, you don't want to offer an animal that's like wounded, or that you might it's not that isn't healthy, that is dying. Like, you want to look at your flock and find like the healthiest, most extraordinary animal and offer that, because that's like the best of the flock. So we see this word as I think we've talked about before, like we have to see how tamim is used in other places. And we see tamim talking about Noah, like that he was tamim in his time. And so it wasn't, again, that he didn't have acne or didn't have any like open wounds. It's like he kind of had this sense of being whole. And then we see when Abram, before he's Abraham, is negotiating with the divine is like, walk with me and yihi tamim, that you will become tamim. And again, I don't think this is about like being blemish free or something like that. It's like, you will be in the process of becoming like the best version of yourself. And this has always been like an anchoring text and kind of philosophy for me about our tradition, which is like, that we're in the process of becoming, and that we are in the process of becoming, hopefully, a better version of ourselves, that our tradition and practices and awareness practices and gratitude practices and tshuva, forgiveness practices, are just about us becoming the best version of ourselves. And that is what we are trying to bring forward every day, not to sacrifice ourselves, but to be of service, to be of that avodah. So I love that link between not just that we're in the process of becoming, but toward what end? Like, what does sacrifice look like? And I think I was saying to some rabbinical students on a call about spiritual life that, every time I before I lead a service and I put on my talit, I would always like wrap myself and just ask myself, like, how can I be of service to this kahal, to this community in this moment? You know, like how can I be in service of the world? And I really like, to the best of my ability, like I do try to think about that every day. Like I think all of us, we have our own wholeness, we have our own skills, our own fire. And part of the charge is like bring that out
Yeah.
into the world. Because we can't do everything. There's so much that's broken, and that can actually feel very disempowering or diminishing. So to dial in on like how you are becoming the best version and to bring that forward in as an avodah, as an offering. So I love that bridge. That's really helpful for me.
Well, that's really helpful for me. Your fire. You're on fire here, my friend. This is really good stuff, and beautiful and moving to hear that, that kavanah, that intention you offer the students. Um, I just want to tack on, that was really, really great, like all those references to the Hebrew word tam or tamim and where it comes up in other contexts, in the
Yeah.
non-sacrificial context. And then I'm thinking seasonally, of course, we're coming up at the Seder, we've got the four children, one of which is the Tam,
Yeah.
the so-called simple child, right? But this really gives us a different frame around what it means, what the Tom represents of ourselves. And then
Yeah.
it makes me think, when we are sitting here, maybe that's exactly the part of ourselves that we're enacting or manifesting, the simple one who, doesn't know to ask, right?
Yeah.
Um, who's just open. It's not really a wrap on the Tom. It's just kind of like keeping it boiling things down to the essence, which is kind of what I'm appreciating about what you brought. Like, why are we here? What are we doing? What's this all about? Right? Yeah, it's to kind of settle ourselves down. We're so rattled, and that's great. Dayenu, to use another seasonal phrase. But ultimately, what we're here to do is to remember to bring the best of ourselves forward and in service to something beyond ourselves, and to keep reminding ourselves and each other of it. And Julie is asking this question just to take it another step in terms of the sacrifice. Can you comment on the idea of sacrifice as giving something of value versus burning off fat, or like discarding the fat? And Julie wrote, which is unnecessary, that which no longer serves us. So, there's so much to do with these sacrifices if we think about them not literally, but as representative of different facets of ourselves and what's going on here, right? Um, I don't know. Do you have
I'm just
something?
laughing because anytime there's like a food metaphor, I get super excited because
Okay. Oh, right.
I feel
I
like,
totally forgot.
first of all, let's not let's not yuck the yum of fat. Like fat is where flavor comes from. It's
Mhm.
like so important. Like you don't have 100% meat burger. Like the ratio for, if you eat meat, the ratio for a burger is like eighty
Yeah, the
twenty,
very
or
lean is not good.
it's not good. Like one time there was a party where somebody had that beef tartare, my dad, for his 35th birthday. I remember this. And we had leftover beef tartare and we tried to make burgers and they were like rocks because there was no fat in them. So fat is important in our lives. I mean, I know you can mean it in different ways, Julie,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's where a lot of the flavor is, right? And I don't know if it's like the fat, if we're giving it a negative connotation, so we're saying burning off what is not at the heart of something, but an exterior thing. But honestly, like the best fat is if we're going to stay with the meat metaphor, which I didn't bring this up, somebody else brought it up, but the most expensive meat is the very well marbled meat, right?
Mm.
Like Kobe meat. It's very well marbled. We don't have to get into how that happens, but I think it is like, also, I was on the phone with someone on a Zoom call, and she said that her like 4-year-old daughter ran up to her and said, "Oh, mom, I met the other fat mom in our class." And this woman said, "Okay, okay, I'm just gonna not respond. Fat's okay. It's a descriptor. It's not a judgment." And she was saying, the daughter was saying that her mom was fat, and she met the other fat
Right.
mom. And
Right.
so I think we give this valence to the word fat. It's obviously always used primarily negative, but it can also just be a descriptor of just like what is a part of something. And
Right.
that again is like part of the whole.
Well, in this case, it could be that it's not that it's something we're getting rid of it. This could be something that no, I don't know. I guess it's hard trying to get away from the negative connotation there,
It's very
but
hard. It's really
okay.
hard.
Yeah. Thank you for
We have a
sharing
lot of
that.
fat phobia
That's,
here.
that's a great one.
Yeah.
Listen, we got 3 minutes. Um, I did mention at the outset, for those who didn't join at the very beginning, that Benjamin is the founder and director of something called the Amen Center, and IJS and the Amen Center for Civic and Spiritual Leadership. And they issued a new report about checking in on Jewish clergy in North America, rabbis and cantors, and just issued a report, which, Harry, if you don't mind putting the link to that for those who might be interested in the findings and recommendations and insights of that report in terms of finding a way to create a more sustainable system for clergy in North America and beyond, you might say. So we have 2 minutes.
And also built really make congregations like
Right.
hothouses for leadership development, where congregants are co-creating the communities and just strengthen those institutions so that they are anchors for civic life in America.
Great. So I was
So
going to ask you to give an executive summary of the executive summary.
that was it.
Sounds like that's it. Is that it?
I mean, the summary is clergy are struggling.
Yeah.
So they're doing a little bit better than we thought. You can actually look and see what are the sustaining practices, which the number one practice, there's, Torah and meditation and prayer, like the top three practices were 80% said times with friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one jumps to 60%. So just to hold the centrality, I think for all of us, just like how important really carving out times for being with people that we love and love us, how
Mm-hmm.
important that is.
Right.
And then the next were, being in nature and exercise. And then, we see text study and prayer and those things. We also see that 17% of clergy do not have a practice that sustains them. And that is very sad because that's pretty close to 20%, which is 1 in 5. We see that on the other side that there is strong leadership relationships with leaders within congregations, but only 4% of the rabbis and cantors said that there's a real robust leadership infrastructure for developing leaders. And that's one of the big takeaways is like, how do we really strengthen congregational support for scouting and developing leaders and running purpose-driven teams? And the same way we have all of this other infrastructure for protocols around Shabbat or the holidays or 12 meetings for budgeting, why don't we have teams that really work on developing leaders? Because leaders are like the lifeblood of our congregations. And the last thing I would say is just like congregations matter and we should be supporting them and championing them and investing in them. And again, they're not for everyone. That's okay. But there's such a big percentage, over 35% of Jews are in congregations, and that's true. We work with Christians and Muslims and Buddhists as well, and they're also wanting to center leadership formation. So that's the work of the Amen Center, is really centering that work to have congregations be these places of becoming and
Mm-hmm.
be stronger and anchor civic society in this moment in particular.
Well, kol hakavod, and that was an excellent executive summary of the executive summary.
Thank you.
I do want to end, we're at time, but I do want to bring in this observation that Cheryl Shapiro had in the chat in terms of bringing the best of ourselves, because we made a really important point that the best of ourselves doesn't mean letting go of the parts that, similarly with, we were saying about the word fat, right? About aspects of ourselves that people might have a negative judgment about and feel like, oh, we should shed that or not bring that. That's not our best. But actually, our brokenness, our grief, our vulnerability, our imperfections, to lead with that, right, is actually can be part of the best that we have to offer. Which,
Absolutely.
yeah. So
I mean, that is really the only way to be in the process of being our best selves, is to be with all of us, to be with all of who we are. And our resistance to that makes it hard to be with the fullness of others and with the divine and the world. It doesn't mean to doesn't mean we stop there, but it just
Right.
gives us so much more power and strength to operate from that place.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in
Thank you,
case
Mark.
people have not picked up on that along the way, this is really so central to what IJS tries to do in the world. So thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing. The Amen Center. Thank you for your incredible work on the board with IJS, and thank you so much for offering so much as a regular teacher on the set, Benjamin. All right, everyone. Thanks to Harry. Thanks to Stuart for sponsoring us. Thanks for hanging in, and look forward to seeing you to sit together into Shabbat. Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat, tomorrow, and at our usual time. Many blessings, everyone. Stay safe and well.